Hey, the last time I
So
played
Chief
with a smoke machine was at church. So, I mean, yeah, it's a different world now.
I understand.
All right, Chief, go ahead.
Ready to go. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here and being on time. Really look forward to this meeting. We've got quite a bit of business to tend to. Hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm sure you would agree with me. We all have much to be thankful for, and so as we enter in the next holiday season, I wish you all and your families a great holiday. So with that, a couple of housekeeping reminders as we move into our agenda. If you're a guest to the meeting, I would ask that you please email rsvp@georgiacourts.gov so we can have a record of your attendance for our minutes. This meeting is, as you know, being recorded both audio and visual, and it's being live streamed and opened as it should be to the press and to the public. During voting on items, as is our usual practice, we will call for opposition only, please, to provide a smoother process. It's important that you mute your devices when not speaking, and I'm going to ask that you please remember to do that. We have some members not able to attend today. I know Judge John Morris, President-elect of the Council of Superior Court Judges, is not able to be with us. Has Judge Ann Harris joined us in his stead yet? Judge Harris? She's not.
I have not seen Judge Harris yet.
We'll just keep an eye out for her. Also, Sean Rose.
Just joined, Chief. Just
Okay.
joining now.
Wonderful. Judge Harris, welcome on behalf of Judge Morris. In addition, we have Council Probate Court Judges President Sean Rhodes that's not able to be with us today. Chris Baller is supposed to be here. Judge Baller, have you joined yet?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. And I also understand that President-elect Danielle McRae of the council will be speaking on behalf of the council today. In addition, Sally Akins, who would normally present as president of the State Bar, is not able to be with us today. She has provided a written report, which we will provide to each of you subsequent to this meeting. And there'll be more information about that momentarily. And so with that, I've got an oath I need to administer to a couple of folks who were either unable to attend or are new to the Judicial Council. So at this time, I would ask Presiding Justice Peterson, Judge Bill Hamrick of the Georgia Statewide Business Court, and Judge Earl Glanville, the new Chief Judge in Atlanta, to please raise their hands. And I'll administer this oath. I will read this oath, and at the end, I will simply ask you to affirm. I do swear or affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as a member of the Judicial Council of Georgia, according to the best of my ability and understanding. That as a member of the Judicial Council, I will endeavor to improve the administration of justice in this state for the benefit of the public as well as for the bench and bar. That I will strive to improve the judicial system of this state as a whole, as well as in its parts, and that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Georgia. So help me God. If you agree with that, please say I do.
I do.
I do.
All right, duly sworn, and now members in good as a member of the commission. So with that, I would ask Cynthia for a roll call, which you can handle by Zoom. Is that correct?
Yes. I just want to confirm following members are with us today. Judge Melanie Cross, have you been able to join?
Yes, I'm
Chief
here.
Judge. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Judge Cross. Chief Judge Asha Jackson. Chief Judge Earl Glanville. Chief Judge Joseph Booth.
I am with you.
I got you. Thank you, Judge. Judge Render Herod.
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Judge Daniel McRae.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
And Chief Judge Brandon Bryson.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good to see you. Chief, that completes the roll. We do have a quorum.
That's fine. Is Judge Hamrick here as well? Did you take the oath, Judge?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Bill, and welcome. Cynthia, if you'll make sure that if Judge Glanville comes on board, that we administer the oath to him or we put him on the next agenda, if you don't mind.
I got it.
All right. Wonderful. With that, I'm going to ask Chief Judge Lindsey Burton to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Judge Burton, welcome.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Judge. Next, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes which have been submitted to each of you from the August 12 general session. Any amendments or corrections or edits whatsoever? And if not, is there a motion they be approved as submitted?
So moved, Jadania Baker.
Baker moves. Is there a second?
Second, Steve Kelly.
Judge Kelly seconds. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion about the minutes? You did a great job with those, Cynthia, your staff. Thank you for very, very comprehensive minutes. There's a motion and a second with no is there any opposition? They are approved as submitted without opposition.
And Chief Judge Glanville has just joined us. Welcome, Chief Judge Glanville. And would you like to administer the oath to him now?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to do that. Judge Glanville, welcome, and welcome as a member of the Judicial Council in your new capacity. And congratulations on your elevation in that district. If you will raise your right hand, and I'm not going to ask you to repeat, but I am going to ask you to affirm at the end of giving you this oath whether you agree with it. I do swear or affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as a member of the Judicial Council of Georgia, according to the best of my ability and understanding, that as a member of the Judicial Council, I will endeavor to improve the administration of justice in this state for the benefit of the public, as well as the bench and bar, and that I will strive to improve the judicial system of this state as a whole, as well as in its parts, and that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Georgia. So help me God. If you agree, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you, General. Appreciate you being with us this morning. And we will now move on into the next portion of our agenda. For those of you that have been paying attention, you know that Governor Kemp established a couple of years ago the Behavioral Health Reform and Innovation Commission. Part of that commission's responsibility is to try to seek to improve the administration of mental health services in this state, not only in those individuals who are intersecting with law enforcement and ultimately the civil or criminal justice systems, but really much broader than that, in improving the mental health services we provide to adolescents and youth, improving the mental health services that folks get in short-term care facilities and hospitals, improving the availability of those services through efforts to improve workforce development and attracting professionals to all parts of the state, so that each of you in your capacities, but also folks that aren't involved in the system have access to mental health services. Part of the work of that commission includes a subcommittee on mental health courts and corrections, which I have the pleasure of chairing. That committee is one of the committees, in fact, the only committee that directly involves itself in matters involving improving the administration of justice around this particular population. And that is a population in our state that have diagnosed and many times undiagnosed serious mental illness. Part of the work of that committee this year is addressing a concept of familiar faces, and that is in individuals that are high utilizers of systems in their respective communities, both the criminal justice system, the healthcare systems, and so forth. And so the work of my committee this year will be focused almost singularly on this concept of familiar faces. We will be making some recommendations to the legislature, which you will hear about very shortly, as those get rolled into, I hope, some legislation for the legislature to committee when they can consider when they convene in January. Part of that really is about sharing information, about giving you all as decision makers in your respective courts more wholesome information about what's going on with the individuals that you're dealing with, and not only sharing information and having access to better information, but also having a better understanding of what serious mental illness is. I speak regularly on this topic and will tell you that, one of the concerns is trying to address an issue that we don't know the full breadth of. I think in your respective jurisdictions, you probably don't know how many people with serious mental illness are in your respective jails. And that's because there are really no standard definitions for that term. And we don't do a very good uniform job across the state in all of the jails of doing mental health, homelessness, and service screening for the individuals that are coming into the jails. And without standardized definitions, it makes it very difficult to know the breadth of the problem. So part of our recommendations will be seemingly somewhat elementary, but we've got to start with really trying to diagnose the breadth of this issue. So with that, I've asked Kristen Stoyshev-Schilling, who is with the Atlanta Judicial Circuit and runs a program there that has been very successful. She's presented to our committee. I've asked her to present to you all this morning very briefly on what they're doing and kind of this concept of familiar faces to familiarize you all with really what it is we're working on. So Kristen, welcome this morning and thank you for being with us.
Great. Thank you and good morning. And thank you for the opportunity to share our work. I'd like to start by quickly describing our collaborative and foundational work in Fulton County that centers on the Stepping Up Initiative. So the Stepping Up Initiative, if you're unfamiliar, is a national initiative led by the National Association of Counties, the Council for State Government's Justice Center, and the American Psychiatric Association Foundation that gives jurisdictions a concrete framework and tools to reduce the number of people with mental illness in jail. So our late Fulton County Commissioner Joan Garner sponsored our Stepping Up resolution that was unanimously adopted in May of 2016. And she encouraged our group to really just go all in on this work. So we knew we would need technical assistance to approach this problem holistically in such a large jurisdiction and with such complicated problems. So our office sought federal funds through the Bureau of Justice Assistance for some planning support. And so then with these funds, we were able to retain the Carl Vincent Institute to support our stakeholder convenings and then really conducting this end-to-end analysis of our system and how folks with mental illness were touching each part of the system. So the result of that planning was a long list of recommendations that our group prioritized, and then Fulton County financially supported our top priorities. So we then set up some implementation teams to really just how to get, getting this work done and working towards completing the actual work. And then just want to note, like Chief Justice Boggs mentioned with the data and the definitions, we've worked really hard with data in our group. So we are really proud of the fact that we were designated a Stepping Up Innovator County surrounding sort of our data efforts. Next slide. So one of our group priority areas is to address what we refer to as familiar faces. So familiar faces are just a small group of folks with complex needs who interact with many systems. Our different jails, the homeless services, our safety net hospitals, and mental health care services. And because our systems are so siloed, a person's care is not coordinated amongst those agencies, and the services are just not meeting people's needs. And the cycle keeps repeating and churning. So this fragmented approach obviously has a high financial cost, but it's also a high cost to the people that we were trying to support. And we also felt like this group made a lot of sense to approach because of our significant volume challenges here in Atlanta, as you can see here with these numbers. Next slide. Okay, so to scale this work, we applied for another BJA grant. This grant is a partnership with Grady Hospital, and it funded a small staff, which included a statistician with a public health background. And then we had some technical support from Applied Research Services. We are wrapping up this 3-year project, and this slide sort of describes the deliverables and the 3-year timeline. We spent the first year really acquiring data and identifying our pilot cohort of 100 folks. In the second year, we pulled our stakeholder teams together to try to figure out how we can operationalize this process. And the goal for the third year was really trying to get some additional funds to support the needed service delivery and a more sophisticated way of screening our familiar faces as they enter sort of the various touch points and agencies. And really the key to all of this is collaboration. We do a lot of work with our partners. It's a little messy, but it's just what has to happen with familiar faces. Next slide. So I want to quickly touch on how we identified our group of familiar faces. We did a 3-year data extract from our local jails and identified the 100 folks with the highest volume of arrests in that 3-year period. We then sent this list of 100 people to our partner agencies, as you can see sort of here listed on the right-hand side, so they could cross-reference and match these individuals. So I think, some of this is not really a surprise, really, but sort of a surprise to us was just the high percentage of folks that were in the homeless management information system. So 80% at some point had, hit the homeless systems. Next. We also did data analysis on the most common types of charges, which we refer to as sort of as crimes of interest. So these are the charges that folks are being booked on most frequently. And this table demonstrates that over half of the charges are low-level misdemeanors that are often associated with mental health, homelessness, poverty, and substance use. It's also worth noting that we know by definition that familiar faces are repeat offenders, but we did not see in any of our data that these folks are getting arrested on very serious or violent charges. So, very, very different group of folks from the repeat offenders that we hear a lot about. Next slide. We also wanted to analyze the volume of interactions with the Atlanta Police Department. So APD was able to match 87 of our 100 familiar faces, and we found that there were over 3,600 contacts with officers with an average of 41 per person. And then half had more than 30 officer encounters, and with one with over 200. So needless to say, there is just lots and lots of contact with our police, with this group of folks. We also analyzed what was the outcome of the court case. So we know there's an arrest and a booking, but what's actually happening to the court case? So as you can see here, 30% of these cases were dismissed or dead docketed, and then with 60% resulting in some kind of guilty verdict with various outcomes that you can see here. And then our key project takeaways were that of these 100 familiar faces, they were booked over 2,000 times in this 3-year period. They occupied over 39,000 jail bed days with an average length of stay of 20 days. At Fulton County Jail, this small group of individuals represented 1.5% of our total bookings at a cost of over $3 million, and with the city costs, the same group of $615,000. Our familiar faces were booked 10 times more frequently. They used 20, just a lot, right? 20 times the number of jail bed days. Women were 3 times overrepresented as compared to the other total population. And then the racial disproportionality was even higher in this group. It's about 89% in the total jail population. And then we also, as you can see, the sort of blue box here, we also applied the crimes of interest category. So that's, again, the low level trespassing types of charges to the entire jail population, and came up with the percentage of bookings and costs that you see here to the right. This sort of information is actually helping us do some planning around some resources that we're scaling up here in Atlanta, one being a pre-charge law enforcement drop-off center, or diversion center that will be opening in 2024. Okay. So then to sort of wrap up, I want to highlight some of our work we've done around data sharing. With this, with the key to familiar faces being really collaboration, our siloed agencies need to have a way to share information for better coordination. So, next slide. For our short-term solution, we used our current justice-related data management system, which is Odyssey. I'm sure many folks on the call also use Odyssey to create these dashboards. So here's a little snapshot of our Stepping Up dashboard that's framed around the Stepping Up key measures to reduce the number of people being booked with mental illness in jail and then reducing jail length of stay. The data pulled to create these dashboards is actually booking information and the scores from our correctional mental health screen. So at any given time, we can see our baseline percentage of folks screening positive for mental health, and then their length of stay. And then we can drill down into the data on these dashboards to sort who scores high, who is lingering longer than they should. And then that's how we can sort of coordinate our reentry efforts with our partner agencies. And then a new layer of information we are in the process of incorporating into our dashboard is a set of questions to assess homelessness. So we are really excited about this new feature, and it's already bringing some collaborative opportunities with our housing providers who will be coming to the jail to assist with full housing assessments and housing placements. And then lastly, our long-term solution is also a project with Tyler Technologies and Odyssey to create a lookup tool that our partners on our data sharing MOU can access. So the purpose of this is for our key stakeholders to be able to quickly identify what agencies folks are associated with to improve that communication and coordinated care. So as an example, if somebody comes to Grady, Grady can look up the information and see that this person might be connected to, say, Mercy Care or some other agency in Atlanta, and quickly make that connection. This ends my slides. I think my info might be posted here. Feel free to reach out. Happy to help in any kind of way. Again, I highly recommend looking into the Stepping Up initiative if you haven't. And these grant funds have really helped support our work here in Atlanta.
Well, thank you, Kristen. As chair of the Judicial Council, I want to occasionally bring these sorts of presentations to you, short sort of snippets, if you will, provide you all some understanding about ongoing efforts statewide to remediate some of the issues that I know you're all dealing with in your respective courts and your respective circuits. And so, Kristen, thank you for what you're doing in Fulton. We can make her larger presentation that she gave to my committee available to anybody that wants it. If you'll let Ms. Clanton know, we can make sure that we send you a copy of that presentation as well, that contains all the data you just saw. Clearly the oath you just took as members, new members of the commission, and oaths you took when you came on to the Judicial Council, and by virtue of the jobs that you have, we all have this vested interest in improving the administration of justice. And so I'm really proud of the work that the Behavioral Health Reform and Innovation Commission is doing. I'm proud of the committee that I serve on and that I chair. The Mental Health Courts and Corrections Committee is going to be making some really reasonable, I think, but yet impactful recommendations to the General Assembly. Appreciate the General Assembly and all of the members of the House and Senate that have been so helpful in pursuing this issue, which you all will remember. And I think bears mentioning that, we lost a really dear friend recently in Speaker Austin. I served with Speaker Austin, and I know you all joined me in expressing your condolences for his loss. Of the many things that he did, most recently, he was a champion of this mental health reform issue. And so as we think about his legacy and we think about what can we do to lift up this population that we all deal with in some form or capacity, and you look at the numbers, these 87 people, for example, that were simply identified in Fulton County, that had over 3,600 contacts with law enforcement, one with over 200, who used up, of the 100 that were booked in, over 2,000 times and used over 38,000 bed days. And we start thinking about returns on public safety tax dollars in the nature of improved recidivism rates and increased public safety. We think about the moral imperative and all of the tentacles that are tied to behavioral health and serious mental illness and all of the players that are touched by it. I hope you'll join me in supporting the recommendations that my committee will be making and the broader recommendations of the Behavioral Health Reform and Innovation Commission. My recommendations from my committee will simply start off with, first, bolstering our capacity to identify this population, right? I mean, that's as I started off with, a very key component. Secondly, how do we respond and improving community responses? Because as you all know, I'm from rural Georgia, many of you are as well, and lack of resources in those communities to divert individuals to has been a significant challenge. And then, of course, expanding access to high quality care and supports, and then supporting knowledge, information sharing. Having information for the decision makers on pretrial release decisions or detention decisions is imperative, and we hope to improve those processes. So stay tuned, and thank you for your attention as we went through this process. But happy to answer questions. Kristen would, I'm sure, if you have any. Does anybody have any questions at this time? If not, Kristen, thank you again for all you're doing. We will now move on to the next item in the agenda, which is Judicial Council Committee reports. We will start with my committee report from the ARPA Funding Committee. That's the American Rescue Plan Act Funds Funding Committee that I chair. I have submitted a written report, which is in the materials behind tab 2 for your consideration. Couple of highlights. We held an administrative meeting on on August 26th to finalize preparation for year 2 of the 3-year grant program. At that meeting, we adopted some revisions to the grant application process, including a section which I think is very important for circuits to provide data on what they've been doing with the money and the outcomes they've seen thus far. We awarded funds in calendar year 22 that will, of course, expire on December 31st of this year. All of the circuits have 60 days after that period to submit reimbursement requests for grant expenses that were incurred through December 31st. But of course, those calendar year 22 funds don't transfer. Instead, we met again to consider applications for calendar year 23. We accepted those applications from September 15th to September 30th. You should know that the committee awarded in that cycle for calendar year 23 over $39 million in grant funding to 37 judicial circuits. One of those was a first-time applicant. 36 had received funding in calendar year 22. Those grants will be effective for expenditures that are incurred on or after January 1st of 23. With that round and considering cumulatively what the work of this committee has done, we have now awarded grants to 43 of 50 judicial circuits since this program began in January of 22. I will say that anecdotally, talking to many of you, predominantly Superior Court judges, but others as well, I'm really proud of what you're doing and appreciative for what all classes of courts are doing to move case backlogs. It's hard work. We know that it'll ultimately manifest itself in our appellate courts, and so we're going to have to be prepared for that as well. But right now, the trial courts are bearing the brunt of it. I'm very appreciative for what you're doing. The committee will next accept applications for calendar year 23 awards in April. That is from April 1st to April 15th. And then also, I should tell you that we, notwithstanding accepting new applications and moving forward with changes, we continue to work daily. The AOC ARPA team does on the reimbursement process. And you should know that they're doing, I think, a fabulous job in trying to gather reimbursement requests from various circuits. As of November 30th, just a couple of weeks ago, we have reimbursed $7.5 million to circuits thus far. And so it took a while for circuits to get ramped up and get the people that they needed, but I wanted you to be aware of that. In addition, I wanted to give you some updates on some adopted policy revisions. We have adopted a one-time waiver for administrative budgets for 2022. We've sent all of that information out. Most importantly, I'm pleased to announce round one was difficult because we weren't quite sure what the guardrails were going to be on eligible expenses, and we continued to hear from circuits of needs that were simply beyond the eligible expense categories that we had been provided. I am pleased to announce, you all saw an email that came from Tracy Mason at AOC yesterday, that in partnership with the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, and we really appreciate their willingness to work with us on all of this. They have approved an audio visual equipment modernization eligible expense for your existing courtrooms. So you'll have more information on that provided to you. That is an eligible expense category now that is defined in newly adopted rules that were adopted without opposition. We gave folks till yesterday, and we didn't hear from anyone. In addition, we increased the cap. You know that we had a $2 million cap. There were, I think 9 circuits that were pretty near the cap. And so giving them this eligible expense category, they would have been hampered in applying for any AV funds under this new category had we not expanded the cap. So my committee has agreed to not lift the cap, but increase the cap from $2 million to $2.5 million for each calendar year for eligible expenses. And again, we will receive AV requests. It's going to take you some time to work with your county commissions and work with your respective entities and classes of court to decide what your plan will be for modernizing equipment in your respective courtrooms. But understand that we will accept those applications from April 1 to April 15th. And you'll start then getting some resources, I think, to help you remediate case backlogs. So that's my report, both written and oral. I appreciate everybody's work. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the AOC and the grants team that Cynthia has put together for us. They're doing a fabulous job in trying to handle both revisions to ongoing grant processes, changes to the application process, handling grant requests that come in and questions that come in and getting reimbursement requests through OPB and then back to circuits, while also looking forward to the needs of our respective courts. And so just stay tuned. We're continuing to fight on your behalf to make sure that we have resources that are going to be helpful to you. So I look forward to continuing the work of that committee. And I thank all the members of that committee that have been truly so very helpful to me and ultimately to you all. So Cynthia, for your team, accept my appreciation and deep gratitude. They have done a fabulous job. Next, we will move. I'm happy to answer questions. If anybody has any questions before we move to legislation. I don't hear any, so that's fine. We will now move to Presiding Justice Peterson to present on the Legislation Committee, which materials you'll find behind tab 3.
Thank you, Chief. And as the Chief said, the written report, which includes substantial supporting documentation on the items being proposed today, is behind tab 3. The committee met twice during November, in addition to a time previously, I believe in August, in preparation for the 2023 session of the General Assembly that begins in January. And there are 3 items that the committee reported out and have for you to vote on today. The first 2 were reported out unanimously. The third was reported out by divided vote. And so I'm going to pause after each item to allow the Chief to take up each item individually. The first item is from the Council of State Court Judges. As you probably know, the Constitution permits courts of limited jurisdiction to use juries of less than 12, so long as they are at least 6 members. And in statute presently, state courts are permitted to use 6-person juries for claims of less than $25,000. The proposal is to increase that $25,000 amount to $100,000. And I don't know if Judge Bennett has anything she'd like to add to that.
No, I don't have anything to add. I believe Judge Wong is on the line and he did the work on this. And so I would defer to him.
Thank you, Bud. Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. You know, this is simply to accommodate the current dollar value, and also it really helps us to move cases in state court, these civil trials. So we appreciate Presiding Justice Peterson working with us on getting this through. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any, but we would ask for your approval, please.
All right, Justice Peterson, do you want to take a vote at this time?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Are
sir.
there any additional questions of any of the stakeholders here? This came out of committee unanimously. It is presented for your approval that the state court judges be permitted to proceed with legislation that would increase the threshold from 25 to 100,000 for 6-person juries. Is there any opposition? Well, let me do it this way. Is there a motion that it be adopted?
I will so move.
Is there a second?
Judge Bennett, I second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? All opposed, please indicate. All right, seems to pass. It appears unanimously. Thank you, Judge Wong. Thank you, Judge Bennett. And thank you, PJ, for your work on that. Now moving on to the next item.
The next item is from both Judicial Council and the Council of Municipal Court Judges. As you'll recall, there was legislation supported by Judicial Council last year that passed. It was the Superior and State Court Appellate Practice Act, which replaced the current certiorari and notice of appeal statutes with a unified petition for review process. That process is effective July 1st, 2023. As often happens in significant pieces of legislation like that touch on a number of different statutes, we've identified a few cleanup amendments that are necessary, in part as a function of other bills that were pending simultaneously and didn't pick up all of the new terminology. And so there is, the proposal is to approve a legislative proposal to just fix cleanup items that remain from that bill last year.
Any questions from anyone?
I don't know if Judge Baker has anything she'd like to add to that.
No, I think, Justice Peterson, that you summed it up perfectly. Thank you so much.
And these are cert petitions from lower class courts to superior courts. Is that right?
That's
From
correct, Chief.
Superior courts. All right. If there are no other questions, is there a motion that this be adopted as well?
So
So
moved, Danya Baker.
Got a motion, and is there a second?
Second, Judge McCord.
Judge Matt McCord is second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion that the Judicial Council support this proposed legislation? No additional discussion. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, it too is unanimously approved. All right, PJ?
The third matter, which unlike the first two, was voted out by divided vote, is from the Council of Magistrate Court Judges, and it relates to their civil jurisdiction. At present, the jurisdictional limit on civil cases in magistrate court is at $15,000, and the proposal is to increase that amount to $25,000. And I believe Judge Pitts may have additional comments.
Good morning, everyone. Our legislative chair, Judge Brendan Murphy, is on the call. I'm going to defer to him to bring up some key points and clarify any questions that there may be. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brendan Murphy. I serve as the Chief Magistrate here in Cobb County. Our legislation, our proposed legislation is listed all the reasons in the printed materials. We appreciate the ability to briefly discuss today. Just to draw out another 3 key points. We prefer to characterize the proposed legislation today as a one-time inflation adjustment. It's not an increase. Our jurisdiction was set at $15,000 in 1999. If you fast forward to today, $15,000 in 1999 is roughly $26,000 to $27,000 today. We don't feel that this proposed legislation would see the high number of cases move that we saw in 2010 when the filing fees in state superior court went up, but in magistrate court, the filing fees were maintained. We don't think this is a wholesale shift in where these cases will be litigated, but simply one additional option. And of course, as was just described, the de novo appellate process is still going to be in place. And so folks can still file in state or superior court under this proposed legislation, and they'll also have their de novo appellate review still in place. And finally, our judges are ready, willing, and able, have the capacity, both case count and skill, to be able to handle these cases. These are the same cases in real dollar value as they were in 1999. And as a reminder, by law, nearly every magistrate judge in the state, their appointment has been approved by the Superior Court. And so with those 3 key points, we'd love to welcome any questions that you have.
Are there any questions of Judge Murphy? Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the legislation? Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the proposed legislation?
This is Art Smith, Council of Superior Court Judges. As we did in the legislative committee meeting, we will oppose this legislation. The Superior Court is unique in that the expansion of judgeships in our class of court is determined by the JWAC, and case count makes up a significant element in that process. Our concern is that the expansion of the monetary jurisdiction of the magistrate court will negatively impact case filings in the Superior Court because decisions from the magistrate court can be taken to the state court or to the Superior Court for review. We don't believe, and we believe that $25,000 is a significant amount of money. The role of the magistrate court is vital to our judicial system to handle smaller claims. Once you pass $15,000, you're talking about significant money. Many of the judges of the magistrate court, while well-trained and dedicated, are not members of the bar. The de novo aspect of a ruling from the magistrate court to a court of state court or the superior court, we do not believe furthers the principle of judicial economy. And for those reasons, we would respectfully oppose this legislation.
Thank you, Judge. Anyone else want to speak in opposition?
This is Jay Stewart. I just want to agree with Judge Smith. In my circuit, which is a 6-county rural circuit, we do have a couple of counties where magistrate judges are elected. And unfortunately, in the past year, we've had a magistrate judge who was elected, arrested, and charged with several criminal misdemeanor offenses, obviously involved the JQC. And my concern, quite frankly, is this serves to erode the trust that the public has in the judiciary. And that is a grave concern from my view, as to this legislation. And please don't impute to me any ill. We've got some great men and women serving as magistrate judges throughout the state of Georgia. But in the rural areas where we have non-lawyers serving in these positions, this is an area of great concern. Thank you.
All right,
This is Judge Bennett on behalf of the State Court Council. We have met and we would echo the comments of Judge Smith and would oppose this.
Okay. Anyone else care to be heard?
I would, sir.
All right.
This is
Judge Bryson. Good morning.
good morning. I'm Judge Bryson, Chief Magistrate of Bartow County. I wasn't planning on speaking this morning. This legislation came before us earlier this year as a council. I wasn't necessarily in favor of it, just for the fact that I think that I wasn't looking for any more cases, but I look at what comes through my court, and I see a lot of cases that are worth $25,000 and $30,000 being crammed down to our jurisdictional limits because these people can't afford the attorneys or the time to take their case to Superior State Court. I don't think this is about the magistrate court. I think this is about the people of Georgia. And for this reason, I would support this legislation. As far as some magistrate judges and JQC complaints, I'm sure we could look at the daily report every day and see that, the JQC has had complaints and cases against many members of the state bar and many classes of court. So I just ask for your consideration in supporting this legislation.
Thank you, Judge Bryson. Always good to hear from you. Thank you for your interest. Others that wish to be heard in support or in opposition?
Chief Justice, this is Judge Pitts, President of the Magistrate Council. I just want to echo what Judge Bryson has said today. We have been meeting about this proposal for months and gathering the necessary information. And we do not view this as taking any cases away from state or superior court. We are just ready and willing to be able to serve the people of the state of Georgia that we have been elected and appointed to serve. And just to touch on the comment about the concerns of the non-members of the bar that are magistrate judges, I am not a member of the state bar, but I have been in my position for almost 18 years. And I believe that I have taken the time and necessary to learn everything that I need to learn. And I fully trust our Magistrate Court Training Council in being able to train us and assist us and provide us with mentor judges that help a lot of us become very successful and very knowledgeable judges. And I want to speak on behalf of the non-lawyer judges and just, I respectfully disagree with what has been said about us today. We are ready and willing and able to handle these cases and apply the law as necessary in each individual case. And I thank you for hearing me out today.
Thank you, Judge Pitts. You make some very valid points. I appreciate your interest in this. On behalf of all judges, those non-lawyer judges and lawyer judges, and I'm serving our magistrate courts and serving our citizens. Anyone else want to speak?
Chief, if I may.
Sure.
I don't know that I've had a great deal of time to form an opinion on this, but I do think it's worth noting that a judge making evidentiary decisions on a case that's worth $15,000 is making the same evidentiary decisions on a case that's worth $25,000. The rules of evidence don't change with the monetary value. It's also worth noting the mandatory minimum insurance limits, which really a lot of these cases would fall within that category, is $25,000. And I don't know that it really does anything other than lift some of the burden from the state court and the superior court. And to those litigants who are concerned that they may not get a fair shake or that they want to have a shot at discovery, that's resolved with a jury demand. And that, certainly then takes the case out of magistrate court. So many of the concerns that are raised this morning, I'm not really sure are actual concerns.
Thank you, Judge McCord. Always good to hear from you too. Appreciate your service. Others? All right, back to you, Justice Peterson.
Sorry, I lost my unmute button for a second. In the absence of any further conversation on behalf of the committee that did vote to approve this, I would move that the Judicial Council support legislation to amend OCGA 15-2 or -10-2A5 to increase the jurisdictional limit for civil claims in magistrate court from $15,000 to $25,000.
All right, for purposes of discussion and possible vote, there is a motion. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All right, there is a motion and a second. Is there additional discussion? Hearing no additional discussion, are there first any that are abstaining from voting on this matter? If so, please indicate by raising your hand so that we can get a record of that.
Vote for it.
All right, Cynthia, have you noted the abstentions?
I have.
Fine. Now, are there any for all opposed to the motion? Please raise your hand. I'm asking just for opposition, as we typically do. And if you'll please give Ms. Clanton an opportunity to count the votes. I will say, as she's counting the votes, it's not often that we get issues that are divided to the Judicial Council, but that's okay, right? I mean, we're a deliberative process, a deliberative body. It's okay to have differing opinions about proposed legislation for various classes of court. I appreciate everyone being respectful of their brethren and their colleagues on the bench in Georgia. And I will just say, lawyers or not, we have very good judges across this state who are really serving our citizens extraordinarily well, and I'm very appreciative for them. And thank you all for your service. There are times when we have divided votes like this, but I don't want it to create any acrimony, and really appreciate the way everyone's handled it. With that, Cynthia, are you prepared to announce what the result is?
Tracy, I'm going to ask check me, but I've got 14 in favor and 10 opposed. Tracy, you've got 16. What did you count?
I had counted 16 opposed. Maybe helpful if everyone could use the raise hand feature.
Use your hand feature on your Zoom. That would make it easier for an accurate vote.
Yes, that is under reactions at the bottom of your screen, and that would make it a lot easier for us to count the opposition.
All right, one more time.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that.
I don't have that feature either.
I don't have that feature.
Okay.
Wait, onto a poll for this, Chief Justice Bob?
I'm asking just for votes that are opposed, either raise your hand or use the reaction portion at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There is a button with a smiley face and a plus that says reactions, and you can raise your hand through that process or raise your hand physically, and keep it up and give staff an opportunity to see Everybody's hands. I'm asking just for opposition to the motion. The motion was to approve the increase in civil jurisdiction and magistrate courts from 15,000 to 25,000.
Cynthia, I believe I see 17 using the reaction and holding hands up.
17 opposed, which leaves how many supportive?
Just confirming the vote. Hold on.
That's fine.
I believe I see eight voting members who do not have their hands raised in opposition, and I counted 17 raised hands for opposition.
All right. Cynthia, are you satisfied with the vote?
I am. Thank you, Chief.
17 opposed, 8 supportive. The motion fails. Is there any further matters that need to be addressed with respect to that or any other of the other legislation committee initiatives and action items?
Nothing further on any of the specific proposals, Chief, but we do continue to ask everyone to share information and legislative initiatives through the committee, even if they seem only to affect one class of courts, so that we can speak with one voice and coordinate as the judicial branch. Please reach out to me or Ms. Tracy Mason at the Judicial Council AOC with any questions, feedback, etc. And just for your information, we'll be beginning the traditional weekly legislative committee Zooms beginning in January when the legislative session kicks off. And that's all I have, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Presiding Justice Peterson. Appreciate that. And I will note Senator Bo Hatchett has joined us. Senator, if you're still with us, I can't see the full screen, but thank you for being with us and for your service. We look forward to working with you. With that, we will move on to the next category of Judicial Council committee reports, and that is to hear from Judge Leonard and the Judicial Workload Assessment Committee.
All right, good morning, Chief. On behalf of the Judicial Workload Assessment Committee, you'll find our materials in tab 4. There were several items to report on. You've got me down for 7 minutes. I think I can do it in about half that. I first want to tell everybody that I have formed a subcommittee that is going to be chaired by David Emerson to take a look at our policies and make sure that they are aligned with everything that has been approved by this body and has come out of our committee. We've noticed one omission, so we're going to go back, take a look, make sure all of the policy is where it needs to be. And in addition to that, make future, policy recommendations. So I would like to withdraw the item number 1 on your list and come back and present to you a package that will update our policy going forward. So I do not need any action on that one. We will be withdrawing that policy on number 1. Secondly, the committee did meet and discuss and vote on an item about classification of abandoned motor vehicle cases. I will note there was not a magistrate present at that meeting. And so after these materials were published, I got reached out to by several different magistrates that had that wanted to weigh in. So I'm requesting to table item number 2 as a courtesy to them, allow them to weigh in. They had some concerns about that, and we would like to address that more fully at the committee. And I think this is a good time to just remind everybody from the different classes of courts and the different judicial administrative districts that have an appointment to our committee, please check with your folks that you've appointed, make sure that they can attend. And if they can't attend, that they invite, someone else to attend in their place. We want to make sure that we've got every class of court represented and get everyone's views when we discuss those items. So Additionally, I do have one action item that I would like a vote on, updating our statistical reporting guide for the 2023 caseload reporting period. If you flip over like to page 26 of your attachment in tab 4, you'll see those dates for the 2023 caseload reporting. We would ask for a vote on that to approve that update. So consider that, please, if you would, Chief Justice, a motion from the committee.
That's fine. There's no need for a second coming from the committee. Is there any further discussion concerning the recommendation to update the guide? Hearing none, all opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Judge Leonard.
Good, thank you. Additionally, there was a request by a legislator, Representative Christopher Irwin, for a Banks County circuit boundary feasibility study. That study was completed and presented to the committee. We got feedback from the chief judges of any affected circuits, Judge Booth, also got feedback from Judge Norris, Judge Ott, and Judge Smith, as well as Representative Irwin, and also there was a representative from PAC there for the district attorney. So you'll see that is in the report. This is a reminder, JWAC does not take a position on that. We just pass that on for information. That was the result of the feasibility study. Again, those items are in tab 4. I think that concludes my report, Chief Justice, unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Judge Leonard. Let me reiterate that the items that were tabled on judgeships and circuit boundary policy recommendations are still alive. It's just, I think, more appropriate now that we've got a committee to let that committee vet those. I stand committed, as I stated at the last meeting, that we all want to make sure that assessments of workload are accurate and that carryover circuits are treated fairly, and I remain committed to that goal. But because we have a committee that is going to be thinking more fully about these and other recommendations, we'd like to let that committee get together, make some recommendations, and bring them all to us at one time. Does that makes sense, Judge Leonard?
Yep, it makes perfect sense to me, and this is a good time probably to remind everybody too that Judge Jay Stewart chairs JNAC. We also completed a new time and motion study, so we'll be adopting some new, case minute values and things like that. So there'll be a lot coming from the committee in the future meetings. So thank you very much.
All right. If there are no additional questions, are there any additional questions concerning the report from Judge Leonard on behalf of the Judicial Workload Assessment Committee? Hearing none, we will move on now to hear from Vice Chief Judge Mercier on court reporting matters, information you can find behind tab 5.
Good morning. We have some committee appointments that we need to make this morning that we need approval on. They are for 4 open seats for the term of office that is effective November the 1st, 2022. The vacancies consist of 1 Superior Court judge, 1 state bar representative, and 2 court reporters. The recommendations for membership are made by the president of each judge's council, the state bar, and the Georgia Court Reporters Association. Behind tab 5, you will find a synopsis of each candidate. I will briefly tell you that we have 2 certified court reporters that need appointed. Ms. Jennifer Pope, she is a certified court reporter, and she is currently the vice president of the Georgia Court Reporters Association. We also have Ms. Deborah Nagy, who is the official court reporter for the Honorable Gregory Voiles in the Southern Judicial Circuit. We have representative from the state bar, Harold T. Daniel, who's admitted to the bar in 1970, and he has served on the Board of Court Reporting since 2020. His position is a reappointment. Both of the court reporters are new appointments. And the member of the judiciary would be the Honorable Chief Judge Brenda Trammell. She served as a Superior Court judge of the Okmulgee Judicial Circuit since January of 2015. She too is a reappointment. Chief, at your pleasure, do you want to do all of these together or one at a time?
All together would be perfectly appropriate. I presume that all 4 come as a recommendation from your committee.
They do indeed.
Therefore, do not need a second. They have been moved. Is there any discussion concerning the appointments to the Board of Court Reporting, being Ms. Pope, Ms. Nagy, Hal Daniel, and Judge Trammell? Here is hearing no additional questions. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, they are so appointed. Judge Mercier, is anything else from your committee?
No, not today, Chief.
Thank you so much. We will now hear from Justice Bethel, Charlie Bethel, and Judge Judge Russell on the Judicial Salaries and Supplements Committee, and the work of that committee can be found behind tab 6. Maybe they're flipping a coin trying to decide who's going to present.
I think it's Justice Bethel.
Sorry about that, Chief. Like Justice Peterson, apparently had lost my unmute button. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll take the lead. And as is often the case, if in the event I miss something, Judge Smith will certainly be there to help out. And I also want to say a word of appreciation to the staff that is working with our committee. Tracy Mason and Andrew Zoll have done excellent work for us, and so they too will be available if we have questions. Turning to everyone's favorite topic, compensation, I want to announce to the Judicial Council that behind tab 6, you will see the preliminary report. For those of you who've been around, this won't be news, but for the new members of the council, our committee was created with the purpose of delivering 2 reports. This is the preliminary report. The final report is due in the spring of 2023. And those reports really break along the core lines of the charge of the committee. The first report, and the one you see today, is an attempt to update and expand and develop a even more accurate picture than we had in 2016, when a committee of the legislature undertook to explore judicial compensation, and so give a picture of what we have today in Georgia. And then the second piece is to look for potential structural opportunities to change the way we do compensation in the judicial branch going forward. And so that's really the I guess, creative work of the committee to the extent we're able to succeed there. And that will be in the final report of the committee that you will see next year. As a preliminary matter, I will just voice in a way that I don't know a nice way of saying it is staggeringly difficult and sort of incomprehensible to me that how difficult it proves to find out exactly how public officials are compensated, and the amount of effort and energy that is expended in something that is public record and readily available has been an interesting experience, I think, for all of us on the committee to engage in. With that said, I will say that the report you have does have more and better, and we believe very accurate data, but it does have incomplete data. And as the charge of the committee made clear, one of the things that we are tasked with doing is exploring all options to make sure that our ultimate data set is as complete and accurate as possible. That is something that we are actively doing now and will continue to do, even as we sort of shift gears into thinking about what structures may be out there. With that said, I'll just quickly sort of move through. I won't try to read you the report you all can read. We just sort of move through from a highlight standpoint so that we make sure that we address questions that are out there. The first section that you'll see is really the update of the 2016 report. And so all of the problems that were identified by the legislative committee continue to exist in the structure that we do compensation. And Chief, I sometimes I assume that people understand too that the crux of the challenges that we face really sort of come down to this local supplement model that has a fascinating history. If you want to read the 2016 report, it actually has a really extensive history of how we got to this local supplement structure that we have today. But it creates a dynamic where changes in compensation vary widely across the state, and we are left with this in particular Superior Court as it relates to our judges in Georgia, but this is true for some DA's offices and public defenders as well. We are left with a state compensation, meaning what the state of Georgia pays for our general jurisdiction trial court, that is among the lowest in the nation. And by extension, that also means that their funded retirement is among the lowest in the nation. And then we have this wide variety of compensation based on the supplement tradition and structure of the local communities that support their superior courts to varying degrees. And so you'll see in the report behind in section 1 that the range of superior court judges' salary in Georgia, not unlike it was in 2016, just the numbers have sort of scaled up a little bit, but the range remains around $70,000. And so that, you know, the low end of the range in 16 was 132, and I'm going to round these as I do them, but 132,000, and now it's 151. But the top end was 207, and now it's essentially 220. And so when we talk about changes to the structure, doing that in a way that communicates well with the legislature, what's out there can prove to be very difficult. It also results in, and this is where we go back to the data piece that we continue to work on, because there are various different solutions around the state, some other offices are tied to the compensation of a superior court judge in their community. And so any change that is proposed or any change that is considered has potential impact sort of downstream. Some people call this the train, you know, everybody's on the train, but in any event, to other folks. And we need to make sure that we have data that's available to help people work their way through that. But again, you'll see as you go through that section 1 that I am aware that there are only 50 states. And so when I give you national data, understand that that also includes territories and others, that the state component of pay would see Georgia ranked 53rd in terms of what the state contributes to general jurisdiction trial courts. But we also have judges who their pay rank would be as high as 4th at the national level. And so again, you see that dynamic and how it shapes up for us. And so we are trying to make sure that all the data we prepare and all the data we deliver is clear and accurate, so that when we talk with our partners in the legislative branch, we can give them accurate picture of what any changes might look like in that respect. In section 2, you'll see some of the discussion of how those salary linkages work. We still have a lot of data collection in this space. We are working with one of our subcommittees, limited jurisdiction, courts of limited jurisdiction. We know that 23 counties tie these together, but we also suspect that that's not a complete set, and so we're working to drive that number to ground. And then in section 3, you'll also see that we have discussion of retirement benefits. As I mentioned, because the state contribution is low, the state funded portion of retirement also appears as low, but we have a wide variety of local solutions in terms of how those supplements are calculated. Are those folks participating in local retirement, in other words, county-based retirement based on their supplement, or are they making contributions at the state level? And all of that we are trying to run to ground and make sure that we have accurate information. All that is to say that the work of the committee, Chief, is really shifting into looking towards that final report as we continue to try to finalize our data set. And like I say, explore all the various options that are out there for us to hopefully acquire the information in a friendly fashion. That's our purpose and goal in all of these places. But then to look at this structural issue, we are mindful that no one in the policy-making branches has asked us to do this. And so we are not inclined to presume that there's an amount, or this is not about the easier questions that are out there. I mean, what are appellate judges, or what are folks that are fully paid at the state level? What's the right rate of pay? Those are really questions for the legislative branch. But is there a structure? Is there a proposal? Is there a pathway to make local supplements less of a problem, less of an issue when the state looks to engage in judicial compensation? And that's our next piece. We certainly welcome feedback on that front from the members of the committee. And I think I have in my notes what I skipped over at the beginning, Chief, is that the full committee, since the last Judicial Council meeting, has met on 2 occasions, and then we did some sort of digital work remotely, and then 2 of our subcommittees have also convened, and they have been active. And so I do want to say on behalf of Judge Smith how appreciative I am, and I know he is, of the work of the committee that are a bunch of busy folks in other respect, and then also partners beyond. We've got a lot of folks who are working hard to try and help us get a good data set. And so with leave towards Judge Smith, if he's going to catch something that I missed, and I will obviously make myself available to questions, but Chief, I think between that and the written materials at tab 6, that's the preliminary report of our committee. And I stress preliminary because the stuff people are really going to be most interested in is what may or may not come next. But that can't be done well without the foundation that we rest upon. And as I've mentioned, we still have work to do to feel good about that.
Thank you, Justice Bethel. Justice Smith, Judge Smith.
Yes, I do have a couple of things I want to add. I want to say what an honor it is to work with the staff and with Justice Bethel. And I think that you will understand why I think I need to add this, because Justice Bethel, being as humble and self-effacing as he is, neglected to mention as one important takeaway from the report that the disparity relating to the between the pay of general jurisdiction trial court judges, that is Superior Court judges, and the appellate court judges, and specifically the report compares both the intermediate appellate court of appeals and the Supreme Court, that disparity has in fact grown since the 2016 report. I think there were, at the time of the 2016 report, 80 Superior Court judges that earned more than the Supreme Court justice. Now there are 130 Superior Court judges, and I expect that's not the entirety of the story. Once we finish collecting the data, I think we will find that there are stakeholders at every level of court, including DAs and public defenders, but every level of court that exceed that level of pay. And the Justice Bethel has not mentioned that, but the rest of us all think that that's an important matter to note. I also will echo his appreciation for the hard work and dedication of our staff as well, that I found it to be very disheartening that, notwithstanding the hard work of our staff and complete cooperation from ACCG and the other stakeholders, it has been shockingly difficult to obtain information on the compensation of public employees. And it just seems it shouldn't be that way. As we move to the next stage of trying to look at different solutions, obviously we want to be as transparent as possible and give everyone an opportunity to be heard. And I'm looking for and would appreciate any suggestions on how that can best be accomplished. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Justice Bethel. And thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you, Judge Smith, and thank you, Justice Bethel, for your really fine work here. Are there questions of Justice Bethel or Judge Smith concerning the preliminary report? I will say that I heard, if nothing else, through that report, a couple of things that I want to highlight. One is that it being staggeringly difficult and shockingly difficult to get information is a problem. And I would suggest to everyone that the work of this committee is very important. While we haven't been asked by policymakers to update this report, we need good data. And I think the quality of this report and any likelihood of success for anything that it might suggest is going to be largely dependent on the quality of the information and cooperation we get from everybody that's involved. So please continue to provide information when requested. Other questions? Any questions at all? Really appreciate the work, Judge Smith, Justice Bethel. Thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing on behalf of the courts.
Thank you,
We
Chief.
appreciate that effort. With that, we will move to our next report, which is from the Technology Committee. Justice LaGrua and/or Judge Kelly. Welcome.
Morning, Chief. Unlike my colleagues, I found my unmute button, but with your permission, I would defer to Judge Kelly on the technology, and I'll wait till COVID.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. The Judicial Council Standing Committee on Technology, we meet every other month, and we receive reports from various groups and subcommittees and joint subcommittees. We had a couple things of interest is, of course, our website gateway for Georgia courts continues to increase month by month. And as I mentioned, the last time after the start of the year, one of the projects will be a facelift of the gateway website and modernize it, make it a little more user friendly for the people that we serve in this state. Another thing I'd like to mention that the committee got a report from was from Ben Luke and his the crew, technology crew. They've worked on a virtual calendar call. It's in beta testing, I think, in some places right now. So if you're interested in that, it's going to provide a no-cost solution to a lot of judges. It could be used for any class of court to help with virtual calendar calls, a more efficient way than just getting emails from lawyers about whether they're ready or not ready. One of the other reports we received was from the Automated Data Collection Subcommittee, and they've received a federal grant to help with this project. And as we just mentioned just a few minutes ago, needing data and how hard data is to get from governments. It's also hard to get. We've had several reports this morning how hard it is to get data. And that kind of segues into my wanted to talk to you a little bit about one of the goals I have for this technology committee. We voted on it last time, is to do an IT strategic plan. I know the Judicial Council has a strategic plan, which is really very mission oriented. Most states, just having come back from e-courts, most states have an IT plan, and we need one in Georgia. And so I'm excited to work with our technology committee and probably some subcommittees, because data is everything. We need to be able to retrieve it, analyze it, make it available for those who we serve. I firmly believe that the judicial branch is not just a branch of government, but it's a service for our people in this state. And we can serve them through technology. We can serve them by retrieving data and using that data to give it to the legislature so they can manage our taxpayers' money. It can provide a more pleasant experience for our citizens, which is what we're doing through the website and increasing that. But there's a lot of other ways to make it more pleasant. A lot of courts are text messaging lawyers, reminding them of my dentist sends me a text message reminding me of my dental appointment. Our courts could do that on a more frequent basis. Some are, but very, very few, to help lawyers out, help citizens out, especially in lower courts. We need to technologies can help us be more inclusive of underrepresented groups. It can help us with pro bono services to run more efficiently, online resolution, how courts use technology. So I think, as you can see, I'm pretty passionate about the strategic plan. It's going to be a big undertaking. This is not something small, but I'm hoping that we can, maybe by the summer's meeting of Judicial Council, we'll have something to present that will give us some good solutions for the state of Georgia that are attainable, sustainable, and very flexible, so that many different courts, since Georgia is so diverse, can use that. Mr. Chief Justice, that's the report of the Technology Committee.
Well, thank you, Judge. We always appreciate your reports, and I particularly appreciate your passion. I think your passion, Judge, is going to ensure that you have a lifetime appointment to this committee, and so you should be prepared for that. It is obviously never more important than now. Post-COVID taught us a lot of lessons about technology, and I think we've got some terrific opportunities now to to advance technology among all classes of courts to improve the administration of justice for our citizens. So keep up the good work and thank you. Any questions of Judge Kelly concerning his report?
Chief, if I could just add that as long as I'm chair of technology, it will be more than a lifetime appointment for Judge Kelly.
Well, y'all are doing a great job. We're very appreciative and thank you both for your work here. Now moving on, Justice LaGrua, you have the Judicial COVID-19 Task Force report, which is behind tab 8.
Be very short. Judge McClellan had to get back to court, so he has left us this in my hands. Very short, Chief. We are finishing up the rewrite of the bench book. Hope to have that presented to you and PJ in time to hopefully present at the April Judicial Council meeting. That's my report.
Well, thank you so much for that report. We look forward to seeing the bench book. The Budget Committee has submitted a written report, which is in your materials behind tab 9. And so there's no oral presentation of the Budget Committee report. Likewise, the Strategic Plan Committee has a written report included in the materials behind tab 10. The current strategic plan is closing out, and I will be and have been in contact with Cynthia about the next phase of our strategic plan. And putting together all of the preparations necessary to move forward. I am pleased to say that with respect to the strategic plan that is in place and that is closing out, I think everything that the committee had set up years ago to try to accomplish has largely, if not entirely, been accomplished. So thank you, Cynthia, and thank you for members of that committee that have worked so hard to accomplish those plans goals. Next. We have a Judicial Emergency Preparedness Committee report. It is a written report that is included in the materials behind tab 11, and there'll be no oral report beyond the written report. We're going to take a break here in a moment, but before we do, we're going to move to Darren Inge to present on appointments to the Superior Court Clerks Training Council and to our obligations for the Judicial Council under Title 15-60-50.1. So Darren, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning. You'll see under tab 12 that there was an organizational chart that was created for an unrelated Judicial Council initiative. We created this org chart by reviewing the creating statutes of certain state government entities for a legal or operational connection to the Supreme Court of Georgia or Judicial Council or AOC. And in doing so, we identified that the Superior Court Clerks Training Council has 3 members on it who are Superior Court judges. They're non-voting members. You can see the code section is 15.650.1, which requires the Judicial Council to appoint these members. Subsequent inquiry determined that these positions were vacant, and the President of the Council of Superior Court Judges, Judge Arthur Smith, has submitted 3 judge nominees for these positions.
The nominees are in your materials. The nominees would include Cynthia Adams, Judge Adams from the Douglas Judicial Circuit. The second nominee would be Judge Michael Johnson from the Oconee Judicial Circuit. And thirdly, Judge Stacey Hydrick from the Stone Mountain Judicial Circuit. They would all be then serving on the Superior Court Clerks Training Council as non-voting members as required by statute. This comes to us from Judge Smith. Is there a motion that those 3 be adopted as appointees?
So moved.
Judge McCord has moved. Is there a second?
Judge Harris, second.
Judge Harris has provided the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, any opposed to the appointment of these 3 to that committee or that council? Hearing none, it is approved. With that, Cynthia, I think now would be a good time to give everybody a quick break before we move into reports from your report and reports from various councils in the state bar. So with that, you want to do that, Cynthia?
Absolutely. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Yeah. All right, everyone, it is 11:24. If you'll be back in 5 minutes, please. Thank you. Cynthia's time run.
I give him one more minute.
All right, well, let's get started back. Do we have enough folks back to constitute a quorum, Cynthia?
We do.
All right, well, with that, we will turn it over to you for the report from the Judicial Council AOC.
Great. Thank you. Justices, judges, judicial branch leaders, I extend my season greetings as we approach the holiday season and work to close out calendar year 2022. While preparing for this meeting, I recall the Judicial Council meeting at the Carter Center in December 2019, watching the snow falling outside. Now, while it was pretty, I know all our minds were on the icy parking lot and the drive home that we faced when the meeting ended. So while that memory is sweet, it's nice to have this winter meeting from our cozy offices. Had a lot of activity since we last met in August, but before I begin, I want to extend a warm welcome to our new members, Chief Judge Ural Glanville and Judge Bill Hamrick, and thank you to our outgoing members with us today. Our ARPA grants team continues to support judicial circuits with monthly reimbursements and budget management as the program nears the end of its first year. After managing grants for 42 circuits in 2022, the team is preparing to support 37 circuits in implementing their 2023 award. Thank you to our staff who have worked 24/7 to make this process transparent and responsive to the needs of the judiciary. Regina Haley, Carolyn Kane Smith, Sandra Nichols, Carrie Kitchens, Peterson David, Shamika Dodson, Darren Enns, and Tracy Mason. We completed a draft of our annual report for fiscal year 2022, documenting the work of the Judicial Council, AOC, and our many partners like ICJE. We're sending you an electronic version and we'll ask you to please review it before we distribute it to the legislature during the first week of January. We've had many sets of eyes on it, but we want to make sure we get every detail correct. So look for that in your email. Judicial Council's Access to Justice Committee held 2 classes in a 6-part virtual webinar series called Minding the Justice Gap, with a 3rd scheduled for this Monday. The committee also hosted a records restriction clinic in one of our legal deserts, Wilcox County. Thank you to Judicial Council member Judge Rhodes for all he did to make the clinic successful, from setting up tables and chairs to giving opening remarks to attendees. On September 16th, the Court of Appeals hosted an in-person and live stream CLE led by Chief Judge Brian Rickman about the murder of Colonel Penn. Speakers included Senior Judge Herbert Phipps, DeKalb CEO Michael Thurman, family members of Prosecutor Cleet Johnson, and Colonel Penn's daughters. Many of the AOC staff were able to attend in person, and it was deeply moving. Well done, Judge Rickman. We have a number of new staff at the AOC, but I want to bring to your attention Peterson David, our new CFO, since you'll be working with him. Peterson has an MBA and a Master's of Science in Financial Services. He's got over 12 years of experience working both in and outside of government, and is an extraordinary leader. Peterson was also born in Haiti and has an interesting life story. Certainly glad he's joined our fiscal team, and my thanks to the Supreme Court's CFO, Regina Jones, for assisting us during our hiring process. Warmest congratulations to our longtime friend, the Supreme Court and Court of Appeals Reporter of Decision, Jean Ruskell, on her retirement after many, many, many years of service, for which she was recognized with an Amicus Curiae Award. We also extend our warm welcome to reporter Lindsay Rayberg. Constitution Day was September 17th, and the Judicial Council AOC celebrated with an online civic engagement event titled #Judges Read Meaningful Tweets. The Center for Civic Engagement helped us reach out to Georgia teachers and students, encouraging them to submit questions about the Constitution. Then those questions were answered via video by Judicial Council members and Georgia judges all across the state and shared on social media. Further celebration of Constitution Day, Justice Bethel and Chief Judge Rickman wrote an op-ed for the AJC about the importance of civic education and judicial branch engagement. To quote Chief Judge Rickman, all of us have a role to play if we are to reverse trends of eroding trust, especially those of us who represent our civic institutions. January 9th will be the first day of the 2023 Georgia legislative session, and there'll be lots of new faces at the Capitol. Our heartfelt condolences again on the untimely passing of Speaker Ralston. Tracy Mason and her team will be present at the Capitol or following closely online to keep track of everything that would affect the judicial branch of Georgia. State Bar Georgia sponsored a wellness CLE, which included a panel of Georgia judges. Judges Wong, Hurd, and McCord, moderated by Judge Shandina Morris, discussing work-life balance, decision fatigue, compassion, and much more. There was wonderful feedback and press about this panel, and I thank the judges for sharing their experiences and wisdom so publicly. Conestoga Bar dedicated the main courtroom in the Whitfield County Courthouse to Chief Judge William T. Boyette to honor his long legacy of judicial service. It's my true pleasure to attend this event along with Justice Charlie Bethel. Mid-September, October marked Hispanic Heritage Month, and our communications team celebrated with a collage of our Georgia judges of Hispanic descent. The GCCA, Council of Accountability Court Judges, and most of our court counsel held very well-attended conferences since August, and I noted with great appreciation our fearless Judicial Council chairs speaking at many of those events. The AOC staff are getting out of the office to visit judges and educate the public. Our court observation program that we call AOC Academy provides an opportunity for AOC staffers to observe court operations and court proceedings to enhance their understanding of the needs of our courts. Cassandra Niblack and Afzal Masood visited Cobb County Superior Court Chief Judge Rob Leonard in early November, and then LaShawn Murphy and Shirley Roberts visited Judge Warren Davis in Gwinnett Superior Court. Cheryl Karunas was a featured speaker at a local Rotary Club where she fielded questions about court operations and how we interact with the legislature. And Cheryl, Andrew, and Tracy Mason just returned from the Biennial Institute in Athens, where they interacted with legislators and other state leaders. Court reporters are certainly in high demand across the state, and our office is doing its part to train and license new court reporters. Board of Court Reporting requires all newly licensed court reporters to complete the LEAP seminar, which stands for Learning Essentials About Professionalism. And it's designed to educate court reporters on the rules and regulations of court reporting in the state of Georgia. This year's seminar was a great success, with a total of 75 new court reporters in attendance. Thank you to Chief Judge Sams, Judge Morris, Judge Hamrick for speaking at our all AOC staff meetings in September, October, and November, respectively. We appreciate your taking the time to be with us. And 2023 is going to be the 50th anniversary of the Judicial Council's AOC. And we've asked retired Judge Tane Kell, who also happens to have a creative communications background, to be our Judicial Council Fellow to help us modestly celebrate our anniversary all year long, starting in January. We'll be in touch with details soon. And finally, my report would not be complete without our judicial branch babies. First up, Chief Judge Asha Jackson. She has a new nephew, Elias. Judge Rebecca Pitts has a grandson, little William. And Executive Director of the Georgia Office of Dispute Resolution, Tracy Johnson, has a new adorable little puppy named Layla. The AOC is a service agency for Georgia judges and a statewide resource. We exist to serve you, the members of the Judicial Council, and our partners. As always, please call me anytime or text to support the important work you do each day to improve justice. Thank you. That's all, Chief.
Thanks, Cynthia. Great report. As always, really appreciate everything you do to support the courts throughout the state. And that is always a great summary to remind us of everything that y'all are engaged in. So thank you. Next, we will move to reports from courts, councils, and the state bar. I start with the report from the Supreme Court. All of these are found behind tab 14 in your materials. You will see a 2-page letter that I've written outlining some of the updates on the work of the Supreme Court, and I submit that written report for your consideration. I now turn it over to Chief Judge Brian Rickman for a report on behalf of the Court of Appeals.
Mr. Chief Justice, nothing to add to our written report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Judge Hamrick, opportunity to present statewide business court.
Thank you, Chief Justice, and thanks, Cynthia, for the welcome and for help with the transition. Your staff has been very helpful. I submitted a report that's 1 page with some statistics we put together about the work of the court since it began in August 2020. Just a couple of highlights. The business court through October of this year had held 66 hearings, 75 case conferences with attorneys of all varieties. They had a trial, and that was done in the Nathan Deal Judicial Center, primarily because it was coming out of the COVID issues, and I think that's why it was held there. And then we have one scheduled starting Monday in Cobb County, and I want to thank Judge Leonard and the Cobb judges for all the accommodations they've made for us. We're in the ceremonial courtroom starting Monday with a jury trial. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Hamrick, and welcome. We really glad to have you here and in the building in particular, and really look forward to seeing more of you. So thank you for your service. Next,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, Judge Vi Bennett, Council of State Court Judges.
Thank you, Justice. I really don't have anything to add to the written report, but since throughout this meeting, I have been sitting in the Delta Sky Club in New York City, I want to say something that I never, ever really thought I'd get to say.
Well, I was about
Live
to, so you go
from
ahead.
New York City, it's Heisman weekend. Go Dogs, go Stetson.
Amen. Well, we're proud. We're proud of Stetson, and really excited for him to be invited, as well he should have been, to New York. So good luck and enjoy the trip, and please give him our regards.
Will do. Thank you.
Go Dogs. Council of Juvenile Court Judges, Judge Hurd, welcome.
Yes, Chief, I will primarily stand on my written report. I would like to publicly congratulate Judge Burton, Judge Lindsay Burton, for her election to the Superior Court bench. She will be leaving our council as effective January 1st. She has been a tremendous asset to the juvenile court bench and to our council, and we could not thank her enough. And I just wanted to say that Judge Kennan will be taking her place. Our bylaws provide that everyone below her moves up, and we have already selected a treasurer to fill in, and so those all that will take place on January 1st. But congratulations and thank you, Judge Burton.
Thank you, Judge Hurd. And in my excitement to talk about Stetson Bennett at the New York Athletic Club, I inadvertently skipped Art Smith. Judge Smith, please give us a report of the Council of Superior Court Judges. He's issued a written report. I assume he's standing on the written report. So we will now move on to the Council of Probate Court Judges, Judge Sean Rhodes. Judge Rhodes was not here. Is there, Council of Probate Court Judges is going to stand on their written report.
No, sir, I'm sorry. I forgot. I lost my mute button as well.
That's okay, Judge McRae. Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chief Justice. We will stand on our written report, but we do have an unfortunate addition that we'd like to add. During the week of Thanksgiving, the Clay County Probate Judge and Chief Magistrate Patrick Bagwell, he suffered a massive heart attack that Wednesday and passed away Saturday, November 26th. So we humbly ask that everybody keep his family and his county in your prayers. Thank you.
We're so sorry, Judge. Please accept our condolences and express those to the family if given the opportunity. We're so sorry to hear that.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Judge Pitts, Council of Magistrate Court Judges.
We'll stand on our written report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Council of Municipal Court Judges, Judge DeJonia Baker. Judge Baker, welcome.
Good morning, Chief. We will stand on our written report as well.
Thank you. Sally Akins, on behalf of State Bar, is unable to be with us. She asked me to suggest to you all that she's got a report coming, and we'll talk about that momentarily, but you'll be getting a copy of that report very soon by email. Next, we turn it over. Judge Smith, are you back with us?
I never left. Like several others, I was unable to find the mute button, but we have submitted a written report and we stand on that report with no additions. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. I appreciate that. Sorry to miss you. Now, reports from additional judicial branch agencies. The Council of Accountability Court Judges, represented by Taylor Jones, has submitted a written report. She's not able to be with us, but she submits that written report for your consideration. Appreciate all the work our accountability court judges and the council do to support those judges. Next, Tracy Johnson, Georgia Commission on Dispute Resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. And thank you, Cynthia, for sharing a picture of our baby Layla. That has helped with me and my husband's recent empty nest syndrome. So we do have a robust report in the package, but I do want to take this time to publicly congratulate Judge Charles Auslander for receiving the Chief Justice Harold Clark Award at the recent ADR Institute. And this is a prestigious award for dispute resolution. And he's only the 9th recipient and well-deserving. So we wanted to congratulate him. And also we wanted to recognize Judge Andy Fuller. He has served on our commission for a very long time. And with his retirement this year, we had to let him go. Otherwise, he would still be with us. So we just want to thank him for his service and recognize his time served with us. And that is the conclusion of my report.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that and extend our congratulations to Judge Auslander and our appreciation to the court. Council of Superior Court Judges, we have a report from either Stacey Harrelson or Mike Holloman. I'm not sure which is here.
This is Mike Holloman. We have nothing to report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Chief Justice's Commission on Professionalism. Carlise, welcome.
Hi, good morning, Chief Justice. I will stand on our written report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The Georgia Council on Court Administrators, Lynn Ansley.
Good morning. Wanted to thank y'all for your support of GCCA. Wanted to especially point out that on September the 12th of this year, GCCA held its annual business meeting where newly elected board was sworn in by Justice Boggs. A special thank you to you, Justice Boggs, for speaking to us and swearing in our board. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Enjoyed being with you, and thank you. JQC, do we have a report from Chuck Boring, the director?
Nothing new to report, Chief Justice. Everybody have a happy holiday.
Thank you, Mr. Boring. Really appreciate that as well. Next, we're going to move to new and old business. Does anyone have any old business to bring to the?
Chief, I think you skipped over ICJE.
I'm sorry. Lynn Moore Nelson.
I am here from Athens and we will stand on our report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, now we'll move to old business. Anybody have any old business to bring to our attention? Any new business? In the nature of new business, let me let me just highlight one issue. I am going to be reaching out to each of the classes of courts and the leadership of the classes of courts through Ms. Clanton or my judicial assistant to arrange meetings. I want to sit down and talk to each of you about just blue sky, right? About things that we can do to help your courts in the future, kind of really beyond the immediate concerns that might go to the Judicial Council, either legislatively or appropriations considerations. I really want to talk to each of you independently about things that I or the Judicial Council can do to assist your courts in improving the administration of justice for your class of courts. It's something that I've had on my heart for a while, and I want to do that. You'll be hearing from Cynthia about meetings that I'll set up that will be between your leadership and anybody else you want to bring, and me and Presiding Justice Peterson. And so no one's in trouble. This isn't being called to the principal's office. I want to sit down and talk to everybody and try to help you, if I can, kind of re-envision, if you will, what our judiciary looks like moving forward, particularly because we've just finished our strategic plan. We are in the process of considering what our 5-year strategic plan looks like moving forward. And your input is very valuable to me. So I want to give you a part in all of that, and ask you to please try to accommodate me if you can. I can come to you, or you can come here, and we will make ourselves available. So if you hear from Cynthia, just know that's what that's about. Is there any other new business? Anything anyone wants to talk about?
Chief Judge Asha Jackson's got her hand up.
Hello, Judge.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to say this is my last official meeting as the Chief Judge of the Stone Mountain Judicial Circuit and the 4th District Administrative Judge. So it has been a pleasure. It's been 4 years of a lot of hard work with some really amazing people and friends. And I just want to say happy holidays to everybody and thank you.
Well, thank you, Chief Judge Jackson. Asha, we really appreciate your service, and you kind of beat me to the punch, because the next role here is that I wanted to thank all of you that are rolling off the Judicial Council, and starting with Judge Jackson at the 4th Judicial Administrative District, Judge Chris Brasher from the 5th District, Judge Rob Flournoy from the 7th Judicial District, and Chief Judge Lindsey Burton from the Council of Juvenile Court Judges. All of you have been tremendous assets to and helpful to me, but more importantly, helpful to the Judicial Council and the very important work that we're engaged in helping our courts. When we swear in new lawyers at the Supreme Court, we're used to telling them that they will get a certificate worthy of framing. And I'm going to tell you all that you're going to get a certificate that I have signed, that I am confident you will rush right out and get framed and hang in a prominent place on your walls. Those are going to be sent. Cynthia's holding one up as we speak, but you're going to get those certificates of appreciation. It is but a very small token of my great esteem for all of you and appreciation for all of you and for what you do. Don't think for a minute that because you're not any longer on the Judicial Council that you will not be called upon to help. So please know that I will continue to reach out. I have most of your numbers and know where to find you. And so thank you for your service. I greatly appreciate it. Applause for all of them. Thank you. With that, we will conclude our meeting with just a couple of highlights. Our next general session will meet by Zoom on Friday, February the 10th. It's on your screen. You will see that meeting is set. It likewise will be by Zoom. We will next plan to meet in person in April in Columbus, a meeting that we intended to have earlier but got shifted because of COVID. We look forward to being over there with Art Smith and all of the classes of courts in Columbus. That's making up for our previous meeting back in August when we didn't get to them, of 2021 of all things. So those are my concluding remarks, other than just tell everyone to please have a happy and safe holiday. Thank you for what you're doing to lift up the public's confidence in all classes of court. We appreciate what all of you do to serve your communities. You know better than anyone that your service is a public service, and that indeed we are all public servants in one form or another. And what we do is very important, whether we're doing it at a lower level court or the state's highest court. I'm very appreciative for what you all do. In many instances, our citizens' contact with our judicial system is at a lower level court. And as a result, their understanding and appreciation or confidence in our judicial system is based on that interaction. And so I just want you to know how appreciative I am for what you do. I'm honored to serve as chair of the council and looking forward to seeing you all again very soon. So happy holidays, be safe, enjoy family and friends, and I look forward to seeing you all at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Be talking to you soon.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.